The Lieutenant Governor talks about the continuing fight against opioids, and is the elimination of a bus stop in Wilmington a civil rights violation? This is the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. Welcome to the Delaware Way. We want to welcome back Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall-Long. Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations are in order. You were recently named a fellow with the Hun Kean Leadership Fellowship in education.
Yes.
And what does that mean exactly?
It's a wonderful opportunity, I think, for our state. The Hun Kean Fellowship is a fellowship that's bipartisan, Republican and Democrats nationally, driven by former governors Hun Kean, as you indicated, North Carolina, New Jersey, Democrat, Republican, to really looking at kindergarten through 12th grade, but also higher education, what we as states, as innovation models, can come up with to really improve our education system. So learning best lessons, and as Governor Hunt said, education is the #1 tool for our economy, the #1 tool for equality, and in his view, a way to really move our country and our states ahead.
And you just got back from this. What did you learn? What did you bring back?
This was the kickoff. We had a wonderful meeting down in Washington, D.C., an opportunity to meet with former secretaries of the Department of Education, leaders across our country, and to really look at those models that work. We were touring public schools and private schools in the nation's capital, where you have certainly high trauma, high crime, high poverty, but these students are excelling in their performance on both national tests as well as in their overall career choices and going to college. So it really shows us, if you put the right people together, the right teachers, the right resources, that we can make sure that no matter what your zip code, no matter what your background, you have an equal opportunity to a solid education.
Every time you talk about Delaware, outside of Delaware, in Pennsylvania or in New Jersey or New York or elsewhere, you talk about possibly moving there, they go, the schools. Yeah, you have to, the schools aren't that good. Watch out if you have kids that are school age. And so in preparation for this interview, I went and looked at the list.
Right.
And you were 15th. Which is not bad for the rest of the country.
So
there's an image that you have not been able to
shed yet.
You haven't got the message out that the schools are okay.
Yeah. And all the previous administration, our current administration under Governor Carney, is making education a real priority. And you're absolutely spot on. We do some things really well. We are #1 in 4-year college graduation rates of students who enter our 4-year higher institutions. People aren't aware of that. We also do have a number of options, both public school, private school, charter school, which is public school, and we're moving the needle.
But this is a real problem, you understand?
Yes.
Because you can't move businesses here if people think, well, my family's not going to have a good education, my kids aren't going to have a good education. It affects everything.
You're absolutely right, and I think that's why Governor Carney and others are working really closely with both our business community as well as our secondary schools and education, Secretary Bunning, as well as our presidents of our higher institutions, to really showcase that, no, that is not the Delaware of today. That is the Delaware of the past, the misnomer, and to really show folks that when you come to Delaware, your students will get a solid education. Plus, if they participate and go to our public institutions, we're one of a few states that provides free college tuition for 2 years, either through the Inspire or the SEED program. So
you're a national model for that, and you have not gotten credit. I know it started here, and I've heard it many times, so I know it started here.
Great.
One last question on education, because I want to move on to opioids. There is this bill that's not even a bill yet that's been floating around that made it into the News Journal, because the claim is it is a bill that will allow Governor Carney to go after school board members locally if he doesn't agree with them and oust them from the school board. First of all, is there any truth to that?
You know what? I am not aware of that style. I mean, that is not the style of administration that I know. I mean, I think people locally respect our government processes and democracy. People elect their local elected officials. And so to come in on the other side heavy-handed would be surprising to me.
Yeah, I guess the bill is that the giving the state, the Board of Education, the ability to take out school board members for some type of malfeasance. But but the people that are against it are saying, wait a second, it gives the state too much power over local school boards.
And you know, there's a lot of bills. I've served 16 years in the General Assembly, you know, in the House and in the Senate, and a lot of times bills are introduced to get controversy, or bills are introduced to have conversations. And I think this piece of legislation, not coming from the administration, but this piece of legislation coming from a legislator is a way to get the dialogue going. And sometimes we get people to come to realize that, hey, we need to be on the same page and break bread. But I'm not familiar with that coming from the administration.
And to be fair, it hasn't even been introduced yet. It's just been passed around to offices, but I brought it up only because the News Journal wrote about it, so it's out there in the public.
Right, and I can't, like I said, I can't speak for that, but what I can speak for is that I'm very confident, having served in the House and Senate, having been on the Education Committee, that we've got some really dedicated, really hardworking legislators who I think recognize that we need sound and reasonable compromise and people working together both at the local level up to the state.
Education extremely important.
Yes.
But one of the things that you've been focusing on as Lieutenant Governor is the opioid crisis and everything that entails as well. One of the things with the opioid crisis that confuses me, and maybe you can help me with this, is all of these resources go into it. There's been so much public attention about it, and yet the death toll keeps going up. Are we doing something wrong? Are we missing something?
You know, well, let's step back. You're right that it's going up in number as far as substance abuse disorder, and I'm excited as the new chairperson for the Behavioral Health Consortium to be looking at that in tandem with Dr. Carol Rattay from the Division of Public Health. And the numbers in Delaware, believe it or not, from death, not abuse, from death have actually dropped this year.
Well, that's good news.
30%, from, you know, the low 300s to the low to like 230. It varies. I knock on wood. We've got another week before the end of the year.
Well, then you seem to be doing something right that they're not doing right across the nation, because nationally the numbers are going up.
Right. And again, for his death rate from overdose, we're lowering it because we worked really hard. I know myself and others, when I was in the Senate, had championed the naloxone legislation, which is the antidote. Most of the overdose deaths are heroin and opioid, not all, but most of the deaths are from that. And the antidote, the way you reverse a heroin death from shutting down the respiratory system, is a drug called naloxone. And Delaware, we were out ahead. We worked really hard with law enforcement and advocates in the community to make that accessible. And so we started with having training available through the community. Then it got into our law enforcement, and now you can actually pick it up in the pharmacy. So those efforts of having that life-saving medication over the counter has saved lives. It's not the answer, though.
Right.
We still have more people who are abusing those drugs.
And to be fair, they have naloxone
issue.
in other states too, and they do not have the same results that you have. And naloxone only stops someone when they're overdosing. It doesn't cure the problem. And we've had people on recently that said Delaware has insufficient addiction help in the state. And I know that you agree with that and you think something should be done. Can we talk about that in the next segment?
We sure can.
We'll pick that up when we continue the conversation with Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall-Long. This is the Delaware Way.